Welcome to the main basketball rankings podcast. I'm your host, basketball data nerd Lucas McNelly. Adam Robinson is here. We have a great episode for you. Was at Bangor Daily News. He was at the Sun Journal, and now he is the JV coach for St. Dom's. And I thought that was an interesting transition. He's always a fun person to have on. But first, couple things to clear up from last night. You may have heard this, you may have not heard this. There was a fight at the Expo in the stands of the Portland Deering game. About 3:15, something like that, left in the third quarter. They had to clear the crowd. They had to clear the crowd. They had to clear the players. The players went back to the locker room for 20 minutes. They called the police. The whole thing. Then they restarted the game, and then I guess another fight broke out. We're still sort of sketchy on details on what's happening here. I keep hoping that more video is going to emerge of it, but they ended up not finishing the game. They called it with like a minute 30 left, something like that. But on their huddle stream cuts off because the 20 minutes where they had cleared the audience or cleared the players, there was, they didn't account for that in scheduling the huddle stream. So a couple things there. One, make the huddle streams longer. I think that we can agree on that. We already had the issue where we missed the Greeley game winner earlier this year because their stream wasn't scheduled long enough. So just schedule longer because you might get 5 overtimes. You don't know. You don't know. And the worst thing you want to do is miss the end of the game. I mean, miss some of the middle of the game, miss the beginning of the game, sure, but don't miss the end of the game because what if something really cool happens at the end? You get a buzzer beater, stuff like that, or it's just me and a couple other people trying to get scores. So there's that. But then also, what is wrong with you people? Quit fighting at basketball games. These are high school basketball games. For the love of God, there is no reason for you to get in a fight at a high school basketball game. Be adults. This is not complicated. Grow up. We already had the fight in the Easton Ashland game, which was embarrassing for everybody involved in that community. There's grown men throwing haymakers next to a baby. Jesus. Like, we should not have two of these in one season. We should not have two of these in a decade. And we've had two of them, and we're not even to the middle of January. So, like, how many more of these are we going to have? The other thing I want to hit is I went to the Lincoln Academy and Winslow game last night, and this is also related to the crowds. The crowds were not great in that game, but neither was the officiating. And I think these things are related because we need more officials, and I think we can all agree on that. That's a pretty standard, not a hot take. We also need better officials because I think that's related to the need for more officials because some of these officials should be doing JV games. So in the Winslow Lincoln Academy game, which was chippy from the tip, and it was very physical, and Braden Rodriguez, who's Winslow's best player, got called for two fouls in the first 53 seconds of the game. I went back and in live, they didn't look like fouls. I went back and watched the tape. They didn't look like fouls. The LCTV stream, the guys on that is like a couple old guys who do the Lincoln Academy games, and they're it's a very Homer broadcast. So, I mean, we've all heard those. They didn't think they were fouls. So when the old dudes for the other team who are homers think you blew the call, you blew the call. So Rodriguez is their best player by a considerable margin. He scores like 25 to 30 points every game. So all of a sudden, you've changed the entire game. He's got two fouls. They kept him in the game because they kind of had to. And he's sort of playing matador defense from then on out because they need him to be in there scoring. And it's just a layup line for Lincoln Academy for a while because until the foul trouble sort of dissipates for Rodriguez, it changes the whole dynamic of the game. So the Winslow fans are mad about this, and they have every right to be mad about this. And then late in the second quarter, Rodriguez catches an elbow from I'm not going to say who because it didn't look like it was intentional. I went and back and rewatched it. Um, it just didn't look intentional. So these things happen. So he goes down. I should have clipped this out so I could have played it here, but I'm just now realizing that. But anyway, it wasn't. The video is not that compelling. It was more compelling in real time, from at least, especially from my angle, because you couldn't really see it as well from where they were. Anyway, so he goes down. They stop play. He's down for 5 seconds. The official stops play. The same official who called the fouls on him stops play, waits for him to get up. The official's like, let's say 15 feet maybe from him, looking at him. He gets up. He's on the baseline. I can see from where I am behind the scores table that he's bleeding. The LCTV guys on the other side of the court can see that he's bleeding. The official cannot see that he's bleeding or is not paying attention. He starts to walk back down the floor. The official hands the ball back to Lincoln Academy to inbound it. They inbound it. You can hear the LCTV guys on the stream go on the feed going, "Oh, he's bleeding. Yeah, he's bleeding." And they got their thick man accents, Yeah, he's bleeding. Players, the Winslow players are yelling that he's bleeding. The Winslow fans are yelling that he's bleeding. The Lincoln players almost get to half court before they figure this out. He's walked all the way to the other side of the court to the 3-point line. There's blood streaming down his face. And they finally blow the whistle, and it's just an example of the officiating in that game. And then for a good 5 minutes, they just stopped calling block charges. Like they just didn't blow the whistle. Like two players, like a player would drive the lane, collide with the defender, one or both of them would fall down, and they wouldn't call, and then just no whistle. Like 4 or 5 of them in a row. No flop warning, nothing. Play on. You're not bleeding, and even if you are bleeding, we're not going to see it. Play on. So I did grab a picture of them patching him up. You can see that there from the lctv.org feed. I mean, you can see the cut above his eye, and so you can imagine how much blood was coming out of that. That's after they've sort of cleaned him up a little bit. Real nasty cut. He had to go to the hospital afterwards for stitches. Came back in the second half. He's got a thing on, little butterfly bandage. Starts bleeding again. They take him out. They fix it again. Bleeding again. In and out of the game. Blood. So, not great. And so I don't know how you can really evaluate Winslow based on that game. But the point I want to make is, we'll use the Winslow fans as an example, although they are not unique in this. They felt like they were getting a bad whistle from the jump, and they were. And Lincoln didn't really love the whistle they were getting either, because it was just not a well officiated game. But you can't start screaming bloody murder from the opening tip because a guy dragged his pivot foot, or because you think there might be 3 seconds, or someone might have traveled. You can't scream bloody murder for every single call. You're up here at 9, you're screaming, and then there's a real missed call, like something egregious, and you have nowhere to go. This isn't Spinal Tap. You can't get to 11. So you gotta really control yourself, because also you're just, at this point, you're noise, and the officials aren't listening to you because you're clearly not thinking, not processing things, and you're just mad at everything, and no one's going to listen to anyone who's just mad at everything. So you have to pick your spots. You have to, cheer for your team, which they were doing, but it was a lot of yelling 3 seconds, and they were sitting right behind me, and so it was a lot of yelling 3 seconds on every possession, and I don't care if they're in the lane for 3 seconds for every possession. Give it a rest. Be quiet for a few possessions. And then when there's something bad, then you get really loud. And then, the officials are going to go, "Oh, geez, maybe I did miss that one." Because you haven't had a problem with their calls for long stretches. And then now you do. And so, I might have blown that call. And that's how you actually get calls from officials. If you're the crowd, that's how the crowd can help influence an official, is by not appearing to be blindly one-sided in their interpretation of how the game is being called, and it doesn't help your team out if you do that anyway, because then the refs get annoyed. They're human beings. They're like, I just enough with these people. So that's my quick little lesson as someone who was sitting there, a neutral third party, didn't care who won, thought the officiating was bad. There was 7 or 8 legitimately awful calls in that game, and situations where you were just like, what are we doing here? There was at least one situation where they just blew the whistle, and then I think Winslow was coming up the court. They blew the whistle right before they got to half court, and then they just gave them the ball out of bounds at the scores table, and both coaches are looking around, going, "What are we doing? What's the call? Why did we stop play?" And just didn't tell anybody. Just vibes. I don't know. It was that sort of game. But the point is, you gotta pick your spots, and you gotta be more judicious in your yelling and screaming at the officials. The really smart thing to do, this is what I used to do when I would yell at officials, is you gotta wait until it quiets down, and then you hit them with something funny. That's how I like to play it. Anyway, that's that's my short 10 minutes on officiating and crowd behavior, and stop fighting at the games. Someone's gonna get arrested. Someone's gonna get hurt. Someone's gonna punch a baby. It's enough already. All right, let's throw it to my conversation with Adam Robinson. Okay, Adam Robinson is here. Adam, as you know, is formerly the sports guy at Bangor Daily News. Gave all that up to pursue the lucrative dream of coaching junior varsity basketball. How's it going?
Good, good. Thanks for having me. And you're right. That's 100% what happened. That was the process. And here I am.
That was the master plan the whole time?
Yep, just for junior varsity basketball.
First of all, what do I have to do to get some St. Dom's gear? Are you wearing gear right now? St. Dom's? Is that
No,
a St. Dom's sweatshirt?
No, it's Carhartt. I only have
Okay.
a St. Dom's polo that I wear for games. That's all
Oh,
I've gotten. So
you guys
once
got to get the swag game up.
I know it. Once I figure out uh, what I have to do, I'll let you know what you have to do, and we'll go.
Okay, and then it'll probably be more than that.
Right.
Yeah. They didn't have like things for like Christmas, because like at Madomic there's like this big display for Christmas presents at
No,
the concessions.
I haven't been able to get anything. I
Huh.
have the polo, but that's all right. We're still working on it. There's still time.
You got to work that into your contract.
I know. I know. I should have been more ready when the very lucrative contract was signed. Right.
Have your lawyer look at it.
Yeah. There were lawyers involved, obviously. So
Right. Sure. So you had no coaching experience before that, right? Before this.
no, no,
No.
not at all.
Okay. So let me see. This is how I sometimes talk to Mike Burnham. So I'll lay out the scenario, and you tell me where I'm wrong.
Yep.
Okay. So JJ Redick gets the Lakers job. And then St. Dom's is having their big meeting at a retreat, like an all hands
Yep.
retreat meeting at an expensive, maybe the Samoset, something like that, somewhere
Right.
really nice.
Exactly.
And they're looking around and they go, "We got this JV job we got to fill.
Hmm.
Who has no experience and is good on a podcast?"
Yes.
And
Exactly
your
right.
name came up.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly how I got the job. Right. They had a huge meeting,
Hmm.
all the St. Dom's brass, just to figure out who was going to be the boys' JV basketball coach.
Sure.
And yeah, they wanted someone who stutters on podcasts and fills time with us. And yeah, so they got me. No, what really happened was Josh Leprell, the head coach of the varsity team, who has been there I think 6 years now. I worked with him at an elementary school in Auburn for a few
Hmm.
years, and he's a kindergarten teacher there. I was an ed tech, so we knew each other through that. And also before that, my time at the Sun Journal covering his basketball team there
Sure.
for years. So it was the Sun Journal first, and then we got closer as he moved to the same school that I worked at for a few years. And so at the beginning of the season, right before it started, he's like, "My JV coach dropped out. You can't do it. And I thought you might want to do it and might be good at it. Would you want to try it? And I was like, you know what? Sure.
Why
I
not?
took like one night to think about it, and I was like, it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So here I am.
Do you think coaching kindergarten or teaching kindergarten prepares you for coaching, or does coaching prepare you for teaching kindergarten?
I think that's a tough one because I think Josh Laprelle, he gets to get a lot of his frustrations out after school at our practice that maybe he can't with 4, 5, and 6 year olds, right?
You got to be a lot nicer to the kindergartners.
Yes, but he gets a lot of patience from working kindergarten. So I think it's a two-way street. I think both help each other. But yeah, he's locked in and he's ready to go. And I know that I've worked at schools now for 4 or 5 years, and the patience I've gotten working with kids has definitely helped with junior varsity basketball so far.
And then you can, what patience you don't have, you can vent that at the officials.
Oh yeah, exactly. Which I have. I've yelled a couple times. I've
Have
been
you?
kind of upset, but then we dial it back and we get back in the game. That's all right.
Have you gotten a technical yet?
No, I thought I was going to get
Oh,
a technical at Dirigo, because we were mounting a huge comeback, and I was mad about a travel call, and I was like pointing at the spot, and then our last second shot to tie it, we didn't get a foul call, and I was like on the court yelling about it. But no technical. I'm surprised. They just kind of look at me and then they keep it moving. So
they're like, oh, it's Adam. All
yeah,
right.
it's just junior varsity. It's like
It's junior varsity. It's hard to get a tech in a JV game, I think.
I think so too. I might get one at some point, but also like we've been fortunate where a lot of our games we've had good leads, so I haven't been had to be too mad, too
Right.
frustrated. But
That helps.
yeah, like recently I talked to a ref and I was like, hey, my guys are saying, they're getting pushed from behind a bunch. And it was like start of the fourth. And he's like, we're up like 20 or something. And the ref said, at this point of the game, we're just trying to get through it, right? We're just trying to get to the end. And I was like, I know, but we're also getting fouled. So I just want to let you know.
We're trying to get the varsity game started on time here.
Yeah.
Guy.
Well, Laprelle, his first and only rule to me when I started was don't go to overtime.
That's a good rule.
Yeah, it's a very good rule. And now I've a few games in here, I understand that that's a very good rule. Yeah.
What have you learned so far? Because I'm very interested in talking to someone a month into their coaching career, because it can be, I imagine, such a whirlwind. I've done almost no coaching, but it seems like it would be a big whirlwind. What have you learned so far about working the refs? Have you improved at working the refs, or are you getting worse at it?
Oh no, I'm awful at working the refs. I sometimes I'm pretty sheepish. I'm like, hey, that just happened over there. But then sometimes I get really mad. Like at Mount Abram, that was like the first time I like kind of blacked out and started yelling. Was we had the ball and we got a turnover, so he like pivoted and then tried to pass it out, and like 3 seconds later we were like over half court and someone in the crowd yelled travel, and then they called it. And I was like,
Wow.
call it when it happens, and the whole place was silent, and I was very loud. But then we got back on track and we won the game. But no, I'm useless. Nothing I say has any kind of influence on any calls.
I found, as a person who used to yell at the refs from the stands and offer them real-time feedback
Right.
on their job performance,
Of course. Yeah.
which I think is valuable in any job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're just trying to help. Yeah.
you're just trying to help. Sometimes you need an extra set of eyes. The trick is you got to wait till it dies down,
Yeah.
and then say something. When everybody's quiet.
Yeah. When it's out of the moment. Yeah.
It's out of the moment, and then especially if you can be funny, that's the best time
True.
to have a good line.
Yeah.
And
No,
then
I need to be better. Yeah. Josh Laprelle does a good job of joking after he yells at them. There are laughs to be had afterwards. Mike Adams, the old Edward Little coach, who now he stepped down last year, and now it's James Philbrook coaching that team after who knows how many years. Coach
a million.
Adams was there. Yeah. He was my ref in like the third or fourth game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, what the? And so I posted a picture of me in the background, and then like one of it was Adams in the middle, and then our one of our players. I posted that at the end of the year on my Instagram, and Will Kramlich, who just stepped down also from the Sun Journal, he's like, if you had told me at the beginning of the year that you'd be a coach and Mike Adams would be reffing your game, I would not have believed you. That was a weird one. I was pretty quiet to Adams. I let him do his job.
Yeah,
Adams,
I would have been louder to a former coach because
yeah,
I've been like, what would you do in this situation if you were
yeah,
me? Put yourself in my shoes. You just made this terrible call.
yeah.
What would you do?
That's a good point. I should have been louder. I told him before the game that you got to be the change you want to see in the world. And so that's what he was. He's like, that's a good one.
I find because I spend a lot of time like I tend to sit behind like the scores table when I go to a game because I like to watch the coaches interact with the players and I like to watch them work the refs. It's fascinating to me, and I find if you can get on a joking rapport early with the ref, I really do think it buys you calls.
Yeah, I think that's a good piece of advice. We have to go down to Trape tomorrow, so I'll try that. I'll put on a smile and I'll try to be friendly at the beginning. Maybe we'll get more calls.
Maybe, and it helps if you've seen the ref a couple times, but you're only like 8-9 games in, so that's a little trickier.
And I couldn't recognize them game to game, which that's on me. I'm really terrible with that stuff. But we'll work on it. I'll be more joking. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps, and I think if you see games where there's no rapport early, if it gets testy late, I think you're more likely to pick up that technical then.
Yeah, that's been me. I don't really talk to them too much, and then I get mad, and they're like, okay, like what do you want from us? Yeah, you're right. I need to talk more and be kinder, but tomorrow will be a different day. I think we'll get a lot of calls. I think you're putting me on the right track here.
One thing my brother would do when he was coaching is he would talk to the officials without talking to the officials. He would have loud discussions with the players about the calls and sort of like work the ref that way. He'd be like, hey, I didn't see that. I thought you had both feet there. You were in position. I thought you did everything we coached you to do. I don't know, man.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
And then,
yeah, I do tell them, like, I'll be like, Joe, I like that play. Or Chris, that was a good move. Or I'll like shrug my shoulders. I think I'm on. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I do that stuff. I make it known that I didn't like their call by saying,
that's good. And you haven't thrown any chairs out on the floor yet?
Not yet, no. I think it was Mount Abram that had like really flimsy metal chairs, and LaPrella and I were talking, and a couple other parents were saying that, there's a good throwing chairs. But then not the ones with like the big pads on them. You can't do much with those. So
no, and they're like interlocked together sometimes.
Yeah, right. So
that's no good.
You can't do much with those. But I'm looking for the right opportunity to become Bobby Knight.
I like it. So when you get the job, and you know a lot of coaches from covering coaches for the number of years you did, I forget how many years it was. Let's call it 15, which is wrong.
Yep.
But you had a lot of relationship with the coaches. Like, who were some of the coaches you reached out to and said, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. What do I do? Give me advice.
Oh man. Well,
I know you tweeted just for random advice, but like, who are the people you like actually called or texted or whatever?
I don't know that I really reached out to many people. I got some stuff on Twitter, but I was watching like I would look up St. Dom's high school basketball on YouTube, and I was like watching what the coaches were doing in old JV games, which was really just sad. But I was looking for anything, and then LaPrella has just been a gold mine of information because he used to coach. He was an assistant at Bates for a number of years also before he came here. So he's been at a couple different levels. He's seen it all. He's really helped me. And every question I really have, I go with him, but he kind of just lets me run my own show. And at this point, I kind of have it down. He's really good at having a schedule. We like print it out every day. I thought I had it on me, but I don't. But like it's timed and everything is, you know what you're going to next for practices. That's helped a lot. And then games, I think I've just watched enough basketball and covered enough games where I kind of understand what goes on and the system of it. And then once you're in it, you kind of get into a rhythm, and it's just basketball at that point, which
Right.
has been good.
How integrated are the JV practices with the varsity practices in having like a cohesive message and stuff like that?
Yeah, so like over break, we were all together as one, but what we've been doing is kind of splitting it up. We'll do JV first, and then we'll have a section of time with JV and varsity, and then the last part will just be varsity kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, but we're doing a lot of, we try to do some of the same stuff. We're running different offenses.
Oh,
But
interesting. Okay.
yeah, Laprelle said I could kind of do what I wanted to do, and then the varsity has much more complex sets and much more sets because we have 8 seniors on the varsity team,
Oh,
so they know each other, they know where everyone's going to be, so they can do a lot more stuff than my group. But um, it's been good. We have a couple guys that swing JV and varsity, and they're really good. They've been really good about knowing our stuff. And then when it's time to practice with the varsity guys, they jump right in and they know their stuff too, which I applaud them because I don't think I would be at that age be able to do anything like that. So
yeah.
um, it's been good. It's a process, but Josh Laprelle does a really good job of laying it all out there and being cohesive. And I've tried to build off that.
Yeah, so you're basically taking sort of what he's doing because you don't want to be teaching them like have them play five out while the varsity's playing a like dump it down in the post sort
Right.
of play because then they get to the varsity and they're like, I don't know what we're doing here. What is this?
Yeah. Yeah. We try to have some of the same concepts. We do try to run some 5 out stuff, but like our zone offense, we have one of the same zone offenses as them. We have the same out of bounds stuff. So they're clear in that regard, and like I said, they're just really smart kids that the ones that are swinging can kind of run both, and they've got that all in their head. So it's been good. It's been a lot of fun.
Cool. And you guys, as the JV, I know the varsity's got one loss. Are they 8-1,
Yeah,
7-1,
8-1, I think, or
8-1?
9-1 now. I don't. We beat Lisbon yesterday. I
Okay.
can't remember what we are though. Only one loss to Mount Abram, and then the JV we have lost to Sacopee Valley, and we lost to Dirigo by 2 last weekend.
Oh,
But we were down 19 in the second half when we came back. We tied it up.
there you go.
Enough. That's all you can ask.
There you
Uh,
go.
it was a lot of fun. And then we've had like scrimmages, like we lost to Cheverus's JV team before the season, and then like in the middle during winter break, we lost to Oxford Hills's JV team in a scrimmage. But in like countable games, I guess that we've had during the regular season, we've only had 2 losses. So I'm
Cool.
very proud of them. It's been a lot of fun.
Nice. So a month in, what's a thing that you've learned about coaching that you had no idea about back in December?
Well, the thing that I was real nervous about when the games got closer and closer was like rotations and
Mm,
getting we try to get we do we've every single game we've gotten everybody in, but
which is
just
more important at the JV level than the varsity level,
exactly right.
obviously. Yeah.
Yep. But it's just getting guys playing time and uh subbing out when they look like they need a break, or like when things just aren't working. And I've kind of looked to Josh when what he does with the varsity team. If someone just seems out of it, we'll get someone else in. But I was real nervous about that in the first couple games. I trying to figure out when to do it, or um, not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, kind of thing.
Hmm.
But I've gotten more used to the flow of it and what it kind of looks like, and when someone needs to get out, they can get out, and it's gotten a lot more normal. But that was the one thing that I was pretty nervous about, because I had like we mentioned at the top, zero coaching experience.
Right.
So kind of learning on the fly with that in that regard.
Well, part of it is just you got to figure out what combinations work and what combinations don't work.
Right. Yeah, we have our starter Gad Tanglimisu. He's one of three brothers that the program has. He's our big, and then I have another big freshman Joe who comes off the bench, and sometimes I play them together, but then sometimes we don't move as much because both of them are kind of down low. So
Mhm.
it's trying to stagger them, and then we have a couple really good ball handlers, so we need one of those guys out there at least. So yeah, looking at when I make subs and then they go they go to the half court and get ready to go in, and then I'm like, wait a second, this isn't going to work, and then I got to get someone else in and stuff. But um,
This is a bad idea, this lineup.
yeah, right. I'm like,
Like,
wait a
we,
second.
we have no shooters on the floor right now. What are we
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, right. Everyone can handle the ball, but we need to be able to score too. Yeah, so it's just figuring that out. But um, Laprelle said after a couple games, he's like, if rotations are your biggest worry, then you're doing a great job. So
Yeah.
um,
Do
yeah,
you, where you're trying to get everybody in the game, I would think I would make sure I got everybody in the game in the first half
hmm,
so that it doesn't get to where it's a 3 point game or then there's 2 minutes left. And I'm like, oh, Jimmy hasn't played.
yeah,
Oh no.
yeah,
I got to make sure we get Jimmy in the game.
yeah. And it's gotten easy, and we do that. Everyone gets in the first half, and then I think most of our games they get in. Everyone gets into the second half too. I think against Dirigo, everyone played at least 2 quarters. I think everyone but two people played all 4 quarters because we had a couple kids in foul trouble, so we were playing everybody in short bursts, and we were just telling them
Mhm.
to run and run. And we have guys. That's what I've been trying to get into their heads that like if we work, we have guys that can come and take your spot if you need a break after that. We can do these quick shifts kind of thing. Um, and they've really responded to that pretty well, I think.
How many do you have on the roster for a JV team?
If we have everybody with us, including the swingers, we have 11 guys.
Wow, that's a
Yeah,
lot for JV at it's class D, right?
yeah, Class D. We're real lucky.
Yeah.
Like I said, the varsity has 8 seniors. So next year, I don't even know if they'll have enough freshmen or newcomers to have a JV. But we're lucky that we have usually 10 or 11 guys. And when we have 10, if we're missing someone, we can. I've done the hockey line changes.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
fine. Those are fun. Yeah, the guys like that. But
Those are fun unless you're keeping stats on an iPad and then they suck.
oh yeah, well, right. I don't think about you guys when I do that. But yeah, and then just outside of rotations, I feel like I've talked about rotations way too much. But just
Yeah.
in practices, um, knowing when to have fun, but uh, trying to crack down and get them to focus in the best we can, like when it matters, like when we're trying to learn plays or run sets, um, and to just kind of use my voice and speak up and be like, hey, this is the time to listen and get through to them that like working hard at this level, Laprelle's watching the practice, he's watching the games, can translate to minutes at the varsity level.
Oh
And
yeah.
every little thing counts, and trying to get that through to them. And I think we turned a corner after 4 or 5 games of like, okay, this we're good, and we should also try and put more effort in because we can be a lot better. So we're doing a lot better in that regard, I think.
I think a lot of kids don't realize that even if they're not on the varsity coach is watching
Right.
and paying attention, and they might even be paying attention to like their seventh grade games
Yeah.
and
Right.
stuff like that. Because you go to a middle school game and you look over, and the varsity coach is a lot of times standing in the
Mhm.
doorway, sort of
Right.
casually watching. And you talk to coaches, you've talked to coaches as much as I do. They go, "Oh, I got this kid in the seventh grade.
Oh yeah, they
Boy,
know.
when he's coming."
Yep.
And they're paying attention to that. So for all you kids watching, these seventh graders who are listening to this podcast
Yeah. Right.
about for some reason,
Yeah. 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 To all our middle school viewers.
yeah,
But no, you're right. I mean, a lot of our kids, like all our seniors, I think like the grand majority of them, came through the elementary through St. Dom's and came through the middle school and then are now in the high school. And I know that we're a private school, but we do have a lot of kids that have come through the system. And so, yeah, and Laprella is watching the middle school games. He talks to the middle school coaches. He knows what's coming up next. Um, and then he's there for our practices. He's there for our games. He's watching the whole thing. He'll send the guys, third quarter, send the varsity guys to go change and get ready, but he'll stay out and he'll watch. And he'll have notes for, things to say to all of them if they need to be told, so, and that goes for, a lot of really good programs. The coaches are in tune with what's going on at the, all these grade levels. So
He's even scouting, the kindergartners at recess.
right, yeah, he's got a lock on what Edward Little has in about what 9-10 years. So
Yeah, he's like, well, that kid moves pretty good on the jungle gym.
right, yeah,
That's someone. That's someone to watch.
right. I got to call Coach Adams.
He doesn't eat paste nearly as much as the other ones.
Yeah, right. His threes are written the right way. No. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how much in prepping for this were you just watching Joe Mazzulla like press conferences and just gleaning quotes, just writing it down? You're like, oh, that's a good one. I'm gonna use that one.
Oh my God, Joe Mazzulla, I love him, but sometimes when like they lose, and I hate his press conferences after losses because he like tries to make us sound like we're the idiots, like we don't know what we just watched. But I have what I have been watching since I took the job was just YouTube different like half court sets, baseline out of bounds stuff. Like I learned Brad Stevens like the winner play, the sideline one, where you like throw it to the other side and then someone comes off. But yeah, just been watching a lot of different things, and I have I got like a nice notebook for Christmas, and I've just been writing a bunch of different plays down and like notes and stuff. So watching more plays than Joe Mazzulla quotes because I watch enough of those and I get sometimes mad.
How worried are you about the Celtics, like 1 to 10?
Man, that Thunder game
And not the game just ended, so it's a 10.
right.
But like I've calmed down. I've taken a walk around the house.
Yeah. Well, it's all about their shooting. So I feel like they'll come back to a baseline, but their 3-point shooting the past few weeks has been really awful. And when it's not falling, unfortunately, that's kind of it.
It can be,
so
yeah.
5.5, because I still think they're the best team in the East, but that Thunder game gave me no confidence. So
that Thunder game gave me no confidence as I was watching the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But then when I saw the stats and it was like Jalen, Derek White, Pritchard, and Sam Hauser didn't score in the second half, and I'm like, oh, well, that's probably not going to happen 4 more times in a 7-game series.
Yeah, in a 7-game series, they're not going to score 27 in the second half in any of the games. But man, there was, and then there's a couple games before that. I don't know. I think if you follow anyone on Twitter, I think I'm probably the most uptight of the Celtics fans. Like people like
there's some pretty bad ones.
I know, but they're like, oh, the Celtics lost 2 games, and people think the sky's falling, and then I'm like secretly like, well, what if it is?
What if I did kill myself?
Yeah, but no, the championship last year helped ease a lot of that. I was like, okay, we got that. I don't really, obviously, I do care what happens this year, but like, it takes a lot of the pressure off.
I'm kind of in the mode of it's the middle of the season. It's not even the All-Star break,
right?
And I think they're probably bored because I would be bored. It's a long season, and they're getting everybody's best shot every night.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so, I mean, I feel like I'm not going to be worried until they're down like 2-1 in a series.
Right. Yeah, which will be, I mean, tough to find themselves in that spot. I think I should just worry way less about the Celtics, but it's what I care about probably the most.
Right. Other than the Lions? Is it the Celtics or the Lions?
Man, I think it might be the Celtics 1A and then the Lions 1AB. Like it's very close. The Lions are all I'm thinking about the last like month and a half.
Right. Are you worried about that defense?
Yes. Yeah.
But they looked good against the Vikings.
They did, which made no sense whatsoever. I don't understand how they were so strong. Like we had like our third corner uh hold Justin Jefferson to 3 catches. Like I don't
That's
even
crazy, yeah.
yeah, I don't understand it. They just keep like the play right after Chris Collinsworth was like the Lions have no pass rush. We sacked Darnold at like the 2. Like I could not believe that game whatsoever. But I keep thinking about that Bills game where it's like we lost 48-42.
Right.
And I'm like, I think a lot of playoff games are going to look like that, but maybe not. We'll see.
I'm trying to imagine how it would feel because the Lions have been so bad for so long, and then for them to be in this position where they could win it, and I'm trying to like correlate that with when the Patriots won the first one, but the Patriots
Mhm.
one just sort of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It was like, wait, we're in the Super Bowl. Wait,
Mhm.
we're winning the Super Bowl. I remember like watching Vinatieri kick that ball and thinking, well, there's got to be time left on the clock.
Right. Yeah.
Like
They
they're
can
gonna
still.
they're gonna run the kickoff back, and
Yeah.
we're gonna lose
Exactly.
this thing.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what it's like to have the history and then be the favorites or one of the favorites the whole year
Yeah.
and just be
No.
sitting there going, how does this end badly?
Right. That's all I'm thinking about. The one time I wasn't thinking it for like a little bit was last year in the championship game against the 49ers. That first half, we were up by like double digits and like everything was working. I was like, oh my God, this is it. And then
Hmm.
we just fell apart. And then this
Yeah.
year going in, I was like, oh no, like now the Lions of all teams have like real expectations, like what's going to happen. And then they have their best regular season ever. So who
It's
knows with this team? They just keep coming.
it's probably similar to the Red Sox in before they broke the curse.
Yeah,
Mentally, I would think.
right. Because you can see a process. The Lions have been a process for like the last 3 or 4 years. You can see a steady incline
Hmm.
um, that's kind of culminated in this year, which has been kind of awesome to follow along with. And yeah, I think the Red Sox, they had 03, they lost in devastating fashion, and then
That was
04
awful.
they finally did it. So um, yeah, I think there's probably I was 9 in 04, but I think people would agree with you, and it seems logical to me that would be kind of a similarity.
I was in '03. I was, how old was I? 24. And the girl I was kind of dating didn't understand why I was upset
Yeah, right.
that they lost. And I think that ended the relationship actually.
Yeah, she was like, "What is going on? Why do you
Like
care?"
why do you care at all? I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah, this means something to me. Yeah,
And then in '04, I was living in Pittsburgh and they won, and everyone's like, well, we got to get you to a bar right now. And so we
right.
found an Irish bar that had Guinness. And the bartender, I had a Red Sox hat on, the bartender gave me a free beer.
There you go.
He's like,
The
you
good
earned it,
days.
man.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, no, we get the bye, and then we'll either play the Rams, who we played last year in the playoffs, or we'll get the Vikings again. So we shall see.
If they make it to the Super Bowl, will you and Scott Bessie have a Super Bowl party together?
Dude,
And
yeah,
because you're
and
the two
Jason
Lions fans
Fuller.
in Maine, right?
Yeah, and Jason Fuller, the Lewiston athletic director.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the
Yeah,
three of you should have a party where you
yeah,
watch it
that's 3
together.
exactly.
And either way, you're very drunk at the end.
Right, that's the
Win or
goal.
lose,
Exactly.
just
No,
call in
I mean,
sick the next day.
yeah. Oh, I'm not. No chance going in. But what was I going to say? Oh, last year, I mean, Jason Fuller and Dan Gish, the Lewiston boys soccer coach, who's I guess a huge 49ers fan, they went to the NFC Championship game last year. So who knows if they make the Super Bowl? Fuller might find his way to New Orleans.
My God, how much are Super Bowl tickets?
Oh my God, $1 billion. But I don't know. Fuller has his ways. He goes to like 3 or 4 Lions games a year in Detroit. So
Wow,
uh, he's living the life.
that's crazy.
And he earns it too. He's probably the hardest working athletic director in Maine, or at least in this area, to me. So
Oh, I had one more coaching thing for you. So
yeah,
when my brother, he wasn't coaching at Madomic, he was coaching at Coastal Christian, and he couldn't make a practice. So he had me filling out a practice. So if you can use any of this, go for it.
okay,
So um, I didn't bring in the basketballs, and
yep.
I left them in the car. And so then when they asked where the balls were, I said, "This is a practice. It's not a game. We don't need the ball."
Mhm.
And then I told them that they needed to be at center court when practice started. Like, let's say it started at 5,
Mhm.
and if they weren't, they had to run a lap for every minute they were not at center court with their shoes on and ready to
Oh,
go.
yep.
And then the assistant coach was 20 minutes late, so I made him run 20 laps because you have to show them that the rules apply to everybody,
Exactly right.
you know.
We're not
And
exempt.
then finally I went and got the when they were running the laps, I went and got the balls after they did some stretching and some drills.
Right.
And then at one point a kid wasn't paying attention and was talking while I was explaining how we were going to do a drill, and he was like behind me,
Yeah.
and I turned and I fired a basketball about 6 inches over his head,
Nice.
and it bounced off the wall. And then I made him run.
Okay, I'm taking notes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then when practice was over, when this one kid's parents didn't show up on time, I made him run laps around the outside of the gym
Jesus.
until his parents got there. And he's like, "Why? That's not my fault." I'm like, "Well, it's not my fault either, and I got crap to do."
Yeah. Right.
But the idea was, so then when my brother came back for the next practice, he could just sit the rest of the season. He's like, I can get Lucas to come do the next practice if you guys want. You know,
Right.
he could do
There you
another
go.
practice. They're like, no, 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 that's good, that's good.
No, we're good. We're good.
So you
Bring
might
him in.
want a bad guy so you can do a good cop, bad
True.
cop thing.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I get my brother in for a
Hmm.
practice, and he'll just have him run. That's a good idea.
Yeah. I
I
mean, you
like it.
can't go wrong with just having them run
No, exactly.
because, the fourth quarter, you got to be in better shape than the other team.
Right. Um, and credit to our varsity team. We don't make them run too much. We just run practice quickly. Like everything's kind of
Mm.
run um, at speed kind of thing. And so we do a good job of getting them in shape. Not by just running laps or running down and backs kind of thing. But sometimes it calls for it. So
We can't call them suicides anymore, I don't think.
no, I
I
think
don't
we
think they're called
steered away
suicides.
from those. We did do a drill 2 days ago when we missed a bunch of free throws in our couple games ago. We you shoot 2 free throws at a time as a total of 10, and like if you miss the first one, it's 3 down and backs. If you miss a second, it's 2 more kind of thing. But the guys were laughing and having fun and giving each other shit about it while they were running and
That's
stuff.
good.
So it was a good time. Yeah, it was a good drill, and so we're working on free throws, but it's the little things, man. That's another thing I've noticed, that it really is. Like today, I was asking coach. I was like, dude, does anyone coach that like you have to, if you're taking a layup with your right hand, it's your left foot you're jumping off of, and vice versa? And he's like, God, these kids, they just kind of pick. So I'm gonna try to, these. It's just the little things, the fundamentals that you got to really hound on them, and I think that LaPrelle does a good job of it, and I'm trying to follow in his footsteps there.
Yeah, and especially at the JV level, that small stuff,
Yeah, right.
you
And
know.
we've got a guy that helps us out, Graham, who played for Camden Hills and then went and played at Bates, and he comes and helps us out at practices and comes to the games he can make. But he was talking about, he was watching something that John Beeline at Michigan was uh, working on, just pivots and pivot foots, and um, having the ball strong, pivoting outlets. And he's like, if high D1 coaches are still coaching pivot foot stuff, then there's no reason why we can't also hound them on it. So
Oh
I thought
yeah,
that was a good point.
because they'll definitely call you for picking up your pivot foot
Oh
in
yeah,
Maine high school basketball.
Maine high school basketball, they love calling travels. Yeah.
That's their favorite thing.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is their bread and butter. So yeah, you got to be ready for that.
I call it sometimes they blow the whistle for being athletic in a Maine high school basketball game.
Oh yeah, like if
That's
they
the
see
penalty.
something that
Yeah.
they haven't that isn't, what they normally see, and it like startles them. Right. They're like, hang on.
Especially in a girls' game.
Yeah, right. That couldn't have been right. No,
No,
it was.
that's no good.
Yeah.
That's let's call it a travel.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't know if you can answer this question, but who are some teams that you've seen that you've been impressed with in the early going that you guys have played against? I don't know if you're allowed to talk about other
Yeah.
teams. Okay, I don't know if
Well,
there's rules.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay,
Well, at the varsity level,
I'll get you in
Mount
trouble.
Abram, Mount Abram's been awesome. They beat us at the varsity level. They play fast. They play really hard, and we didn't. We missed some layups, and we didn't match the intensity at times. Deer ago, we just beat them this past weekend at their place. They're going to be really strong. Wainwright just got his 1,000th point today.
Yep, we're recording this on Wednesday. I don't know when I'm going to
Yes.
actually release it, but he just got his 1,000th point on a technical free throw,
Yeah, that's
which
awesome. Well,
I don't know if I've seen that before. I can't
no,
remember
I don't know
seeing
that I've
that.
seen that. But also, like, you get the moment to yourself. You hit that, and then everyone
Yeah,
cheers, and you can stop the game. And
yeah, game's already stopped.
right,
It's
exactly.
great.
That's
It
that's a pretty good time to do it, actually.
it'd be a bad one to miss.
Right. Um, but then we've been lucky enough to kind of handle everyone. We played Monmouth in the preseason. They were strong. They gave us a good run. We beat them, and then we played Cheverus, and they were missing Sammy and Leo, but we beat them in the preseason as well. Because I think Leo's
Wow.
dad works at St. Dom's, and so last year he was like, "Hey, you guys want to come down and play?" Because I think he knew the level of varsity team we had as well as
Hmm.
his. So that was a really fun one too. I think Cheverus. I mean, it's not reinventing the wheel with this take, but Cheverus is really good.
Hot take.
Yeah, I know. Whoa, stop the presses. call the Sun Journal. Adam just said Cheverus is good, but no, they were strong as well. But obviously, we beat them without their two guys that were on the
Right.
Maine United team. So it may have looked a little different, but I mean, we beat them by 20. So I think
I
it would have been a
mean,
good game if it was full strength.
are they worth 20 points?
I don't know.
That's, you know,
I also think it was the preseason. I think we caught them on like this is a Class D team coming in here. It's going to be all right. And then we came out guns blazing. We played real hard with nothing to lose. I think that may have startled them a little bit.
there you go. And sometimes you see in the NBA the star players go out and the reserves play harder, and
Yeah.
so you might have gotten that from Cheverus.
Yep. Exactly.
Who's to say you wouldn't beat them in a playoff game on the hockey rink floor?
Well, hey, I mean, when I was doing stories for the Sun Journal, we would look back at like old, really good teams that we had in our area from decades past, and they used to do like a little tournament after all the state games of the state championship winners, and they'd all play each other and stuff. And I wish they would still do that, because if we were lucky enough to win a state title and then we go play Cheverus, or like if Cooper Flags and the Comus team got to go play, who was it? I think it was South Portland that year, beat Oxford Hills. That would be, even though they played in the preseason, if they had like a regular season game or a postseason game that mattered a little bit, play again, everyone would have loved to see that. So I
Oh my
wish
gosh,
we could
it
still
would bring
do
in
that.
so much money.
Oh my God, yeah, you could play it literally anywhere. I guess the biggest place is the Portland, but
Portland or Bangor, yeah, or Augusta might be bigger.
that's true.
Augusta would be the place to play it because it's central.
And it's so much better there. I mean, the playoff games that Nokomis were pulling in, people were parking at the Walmart across the street and walking across the street all the way over, which is in February is a brutal walk.
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah, but they were doing it. It was electric.
I mean, that would draw so well. It would fund field hockey for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. You could raise money for shot clocks doing that. There's a million different things you could do with it. I used to propose a tournament of champions that was a little bigger than that. That it was one of those things that you write about where you're like, they're never doing this. Like they could potentially do the champions play each other, But
Yeah.
mine was you take the 10 regional champions
Yeah.
and then you take 6 at-large
Ooh,
teams
I like that. Yeah.
that were like had really good seasons. You know, the year
Yeah.
someone goes like 18-0 and they lose in the semifinal.
Mhm.
That and then you have a big tournament,
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
you know, and that would bring in so much money. There's no room in the calendar for it, but it
No,
would be
the
so
main
much fun.
schedule is, yeah, it's so shrunk, like it's compact. There's no room. You're right, because spring sports are like a week after everything
Yeah,
else.
and then we have to get ready for spring sports, and then we have to stop spring sports because it snows
Yep.
and the fields aren't ready,
Yep.
and so then we just sit around for 2 weeks
Yeah. Yeah,
waiting for
the track
spring
team.
sports to actually start.
Yeah, the track team's running through the hallways again. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
yeah, that's
and then
me.
people like me are going, we could still be playing basketball.
Yeah, right.
There's no reason for us to not be playing basketball now.
Right. Has anyone
It's
done the story? They probably have, about how like Cooper Flag and Nokomis like saved like the MPA with like what it brought in and like that tournament and stuff, because
no, because it was COVID.
yeah, and like they didn't have any money, and then
But they had
Cooper
money.
comes and JP shows up and they like pack the whole playoffs and they make a bunch of money and keeps it alive. But yeah, that year was probably the best year I've had covering high school sports, obviously, but
That was fun.
a lot of fun.
That was fun. He should be a senior. He should be playing Lawrence on Saturday.
Exactly. Yeah. Freaking kid wants to show off and go be the number one player in college right now. That's whatever. Fine.
Did you
Cool.
see the Onion article about him?
Yeah. Yeah. Where took 2 weeks off with his family to go to like Hilton Head.
Yeah,
So
which
good.
is funny, but there's parents who do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hear every year you hear about somebody like, oh, where's so and so? Oh, they're on a family vacation, and the coach is just like seething,
Yeah. Right.
and
Oh yeah.
and you're just like, yeah, that's not great.
No.
But there were people on Facebook who thought it was a real article,
Perfect. Yeah. That's that.
and they're like,
Encapsulates it.
he should be able to spend time with his family. That's not more important. Family's more important than basketball. It's like
Yeah.
you're
Thank God.
familiar with the Onion, right? Like
Right. You know what this is. That,
this is
that encapsulates Facebook in 2025. That
it does.
does it. Yeah.
It does. Yeah. It's a rough go of it.
It is.
Who are some players you've seen that you've been really impressed with?
Oh man. Um, the Mount Abram team as a whole was just really strong. The Wainwright kid at Dirigo was really good. But other than that, after my JV games, I just kind of I'm out of it. I don't have anything left, and then I get onto the varsity bench, and I'm just a cheerleader at that point.
Hmm.
I'm getting them through. So I don't remember uh, guys like names, let alone like faces or anything. So I'm. This is a really terrible, terrible answer, but Wainwright, Dirigo, and Mount Abram had a couple kids that were real strong as well.
Do you guys play Valley this year?
Nope. Well, the only time we'd play Valley would be in the postseason.
Okay.
We're Class D, but for some reason our schedule this year is all C and B teams.
Hmm.
So LaPrelle was wondering if anyone's had a schedule like that and like gotten to the state game or won the state game or something. We figured it was a question for Hoffer to figure out. He would
Yeah.
probably have it in like 5 minutes, honestly.
Hofford knows
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, there were for different class. There's the reverse where like a Spruce would used to have to just play an all Class C schedule and then have to
Yeah.
go to the B tournament,
Yeah.
and that never goes well.
No,
And it
that's been
happens
the
up in the
MVC
county
thing
too.
yeah, the county as well, right? And then that's been the MVC thing for so long, is they don't, for the longest time. I think they might play out of it now, but they
Yeah,
would
they do.
only play an MVC schedule, and then they'd go into the tournament, and Spruce would have Jace Bessie, but then they'd run like a triangle and two, and they'd take him out of it, and it just would be a different ball game.
Yeah, Spruce says they played Madomic already. They're playing Lincoln. That might be tomorrow.
Nice.
I think they're playing Oceanside. So they're getting some of the Bs. One thing, as I was talking to Scott about that, and last year maybe, the year before, and he said the hardest part of that isn't that you haven't played the team you're going to play in the playoffs, right? Because that's what people
Yeah.
would think. Like, oh, you want to be able to, you want to play them in the regular season before you play them in the playoffs. Which, well, whatever. He said part of the problem is don't you can watch them on tape, but you can't watch them on tape against anybody you played, so you
Yeah.
don't have a point of reference.
Right. Yeah. You
You're
can't.
like you're like this kid is I don't know how fast is he? He looks fast. He's
Yeah.
definitely faster than the kid on the other team,
Right.
but how fast is like I you just don't know. You're just like okay, I think we match up with them,
Yeah.
but you don't know till you get out there, and then sometimes you can get punched in the face with oh yeah they're much bigger than us. Okay,
Right. Yeah. They're much bigger. Or, yeah, I saw they looked fast on film, but it turns out they were all fast, and it didn't.
yeah,
You don't have a point of reference, right? That's a good point. Didn't really think about that. Yeah, the scouting part I've found on varsity at the varsity level is really important. Like the coaches
hmm
are watching film and watching. They all have NFHS and WHOU accounts.
sure.
Watching replays of all these games and taking notes and having a whole scout ready. I knew it was a part of it, obviously, but I didn't know how deep it goes. And Laprelle, at least that's my point of reference. But he's on top of it. Even we played Telstar in an exhibition over the winter break, and he had a scout ready for them, even though the game didn't count for records or heel points or anything. He was ready to go. So that's a really big part of high school basketball that I knew happened, but now I see how in depth it goes.
Well, you have to have the WHOU subscription, and you have to have the NFHS subscription, and you have to have the main basketball ranking subscription,
Right.
so that you know what the spread is of the game.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
You claim to not know what the spread is of the game
Mm.
because, coaches don't look at that stuff.
Right. Exactly.
And they don't want to know, you know, and records don't matter and what people say doesn't matter. What matters is our locker room
Yep.
and our
Exactly.
guys and what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But we definitely know that we're a 4.5 point underdog.
Yes. Right.
And
So
if
confident, but also we don't know about it. Yeah.
we don't know anything about it. We do know that if we were a 17 point underdog and we are currently down 16 points, that we really need to get a bucket in this final possession.
Yeah. Right.
It's very important,
Cover.
even
Yeah.
though we have no idea what the spread is.
Right. Yeah. Spot on.
It's a fun little thing.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, that goes pretty deep, the scouting stuff and watching film and getting ready. But yeah, no, back to your Valley thing, we'd only see them in the playoffs, because yeah, we don't play any D teams. But Dom's last year lost to Valley in the regional final, I believe, and
That
so
sounds right.
none of those guys have forgotten that, and it's always kind of in the back of their mind.
Those top four teams in D look pretty good. The you guys and Valley and Bangor Christian and Skank they had that huge
Yeah,
win. I don't know if you saw that.
yeah, Skank has looked real good, and then Bangor Christian, they still have Rajon Reed, right?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, he got a dunk technical the other day.
yeah, that kid's sick.
He got one on purpose, I think.
Perfect, good. I love him already.
Just did a pull up on the rim.
Yeah. My friend Cole Hurlbert, who works for WHOU, does a lot of the Bangor area games. He said if Bangor Christian and my St. Dom's team meet in the finals, he's not going to know who to root for because he loves this Bangor Christian group so much.
Oh.
So I thought that hurt me as a friend. But
Does
I
he
guess
do their broadcasts?
yeah, he does a lot of the play-by-play stuff, or if they
Okay.
have someone else, he'll do color. But yeah, he does broadcasts of Bangor games. He just did an Old Town basketball game. He'll do some hockey up there. He and Dale Duff will do a whole lot of games up there.
I've listened to some of his Bangor Christian things because they're not great at reporting scores but they broadcast it live on Facebook, and so I'm like, oh good, I can find the score here.
Yeah.
Um Give him some friendly advice from me. Just whoever is in charge of the cameras, for the love of God, white balance them because it's
Oh,
driving me
yeah.
nuts. Because like
Yeah.
they're different color temperatures and they
Mhm.
cut in between them, and it's so jarring. And I was like, "Whoa, what is happening here?" And the filmmaker in me, it
Yeah.
makes me nauseous.
I was okay. So I think I know who the usually runs a lot of the camera stuff. So I'll go tell him.
It's
Uh,
probably completely different cameras too. it
Right.
seems like one of them's an iPhone and then one of them's something else, and
Yeah.
they're not going to get it perfect.
Right. Yeah. I do know what you mean because yeah, you gotta my time at Hassan, his time at Hassan, he knows
Yeah,
balancing stuff is very key if you want to make anything that looks any kind of good. So
yeah, because like one of them will be balanced to out to like sunlight, one of them will be balanced to tungsten,
yeah.
and it's
Right.
just oh my gosh, it's they got to fix that.
Yep. I gotcha. I gotcha. You're right
But
about that.
that's me, the sicko who watches live streams of Bangor Christian games,
Yeah, and
just
that's
just
probably
to get a
just
score.
yeah, the Bangor Christian streams is probably just like whatever they have.
Yeah,
But
and probably no
WHU,
one's.
I'll pass that on for the
Oh, WHOU has no problems.
yeah. Oh, okay.
I have no complaints about WHOU. It's a
Oh,
Bangor Christian feeds.
oh, okay. Then yeah, I'll just I'll send them a message then. I'll do it for you.
Awesome, awesome.
Okay.
Uh, how far do you think Cooper's going to take Duke? They're number one in Ken Palm now.
Are they? Their
Yeah,
defense is so sick. It's really really good, but they're so young. So I think they
but
can.
everybody's young.
I know. But you got teams like Auburn. Auburn looks so good. Tennessee just lost, but they've looked pretty good. I don't know. I think they can win it because I think he's that smart and that strong. And if that Knipple kid is like shooting well, they can go
Hmm.
real far. But I think at least at Elite Eight. I think Final Four. I just believe in Cooper that much that I think he can
I'm
win
just
them.
to the point where I'm like, I've not seen any evidence that he can't win
Yeah,
a,
exactly.
a game. The only thing I can think of where he's lost really was in the Peach Jam finale.
Yeah,
Was
like
like
the
the one time where I was like,
yeah,
oh, but I mean,
yeah.
I don't think they were favored in that game.
No, I think the other team was the better full team.
Hmm.
Um, did they win it the second year though?
No, they didn't win
Did
it.
they lose both of them?
I think so, but they got to the
Yeah,
championship game the second year.
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. But yeah, that's really the only losing he's ever done. Because oh, and then Montverde, his first year at Montverde, he missed that little bunny that would have like tied the game in the
Mm,
championship, and they lost
yeah,
the national championship. And then they last year they just steamrolled everybody. That team was
that's
gross.
that's a good team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the all-time high school teams. So yeah, he's done a lot of winning in his life, and I think he can bring it pretty far. I know another hot take. I think Cooper Flagg's good, and I think his team's good. So there you go.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
There you go.
All right. I have one more question for you. How do you feel about the wins draft and how your collection is doing?
I feel good. I think Brunswick girls and Oxford Hills girls played the other day. I think that cancels each other out. That's not great, but
Hmm.
um,
That was a
I,
blowout.
yeah, yeah, it
Well,
was.
Brunswick. So you got some bad luck with the Brunswick girls, where they had like four
They had
starters
injuries,
out.
right?
They've had some injuries. They had four starters out. They
Oh,
lost to Oceanside the other night, and like I think they were down two starters, and then two starters fouled out in the third quarter.
dang.
And it was at Oceanside, and
Yeah,
sometimes the whistles at Oceanside are not great.
yeah,
Speaking as a Madomic person,
yeah, yeah. Right.
it's sometimes you don't get the best whistle there.
Yeah, I've noticed. I don't know how this is, but like when the further out you go, so like the outskirts of Maine,
Hmm.
the refs you get, I don't know, you're just not getting. There's less to choose from, I guess,
Sure.
and so maybe I don't know really where I'm going with it. I have a theory that I might write about at some point in my life about refs in Maine, but I'll keep it there. But we've
Okay.
gotten some, you get less refs to choose from, and they're closer to the people that they're in the area of.
Hmm.
Like we had a ref in one of our JV games. I forget who we were playing, maybe Socopy, and then she went and sat down. The ref after the game went and sat down in the Socopy fan section with a couple parents for
Sure.
the varsity game. I was
Sure.
like, what are we
I
doing?
I've seen that.
Yeah.
You know,
I was like, what are we okay. So
you'll have that.
anyway, I don't even know what we were talking about.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think there's a thing with refs where if you go to well, there's the different boards and there's all that.
Yeah.
But you go to a place that's maybe on the outskirts and there's a ref who does, might do of their 9 home games, he might do 7 of them.
Yeah, because
because he's
they're the option. Yeah,
there,
I
he's
totally agree.
there or she's there, and so they're very familiar with that team, and they're not familiar with you at all. And human nature is human nature.
I thought she was pretty good. There was obvious. I mean, every game I'm going to disagree with some calls, but then I was just
Sure.
I just had never like I guess maybe noticed it. Yeah, they just. But also like I mean, uh, there's some refs in Auburn that that everyone knows everybody, I guess, in Maine, and so you'll have the coaches are like good friends sometimes with the refs.
Hmm.
Um, and so I guess I don't really have a theory too much. I guess that's just that. I don't even know if it was Sakapi, but it just threw me off. I was like, okay, what are we really? That's
Yeah.
what's happening? Yeah. But anyway.
Well, one thing, you're now watching games in a different way
Oh
because
yeah.
in reporting the
That's been
game,
crazy.
you're the neutral third party, and you're like, yeah, that was a foul. What are you yelling about?
Right. Yeah.
That was
Exactly.
definitely a foul.
Yeah. And then now I'm on the bench. I'm like, hey, that wasn't a foul.
That's the worst call in the history of basketball.
Yep. Even though in my
You
head
are
I'm like, oh, that was a foul.
that was a foul. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So it's just a different way to process a game.
Yeah, it really has been. It's been so interesting to see how um the how basketball works from that perspective because I'm like calling things out and I got to think about putting people in and um then I'll like turn to tell someone who just got back onto the bench. I'll tell them something, then I turn around and like we made a shot and I have to ask like who hit the shot, what did we just do?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's been crazy. There's so much that goes on, but I've been pretty good at getting into a zone and kind of just feeling out the game and going with the flow kind of thing.
And then you're standing there, you're like, what is this coach doing? Like, what is this rotation? What is this lineup he's got out here? What? This is insanity. You're like, oh wait, that's me.
Yeah, right. Who put those five out? Oh wait,
That's
oh,
what sort of idiot is in charge
yeah.
of this operation? Oh
That
right.
coach isn't setting them up for success. And I was like, oh wait, yep. I've had a couple of those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm
I
like,
can
oh wait,
imagine.
up to me.
So do you think this is a long-term thing for you, or is it a one and done?
I don't know. I certainly
Are you gonna do a palace coup on Laprelle?
a what?
A palace coup,
Yes, yeah. I'm gonna take him down. Um,
little by
start.
little?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
No, I mean I've seen the gap of knowledge, and obviously Laprelle has a billion years in this now. But I think he was like at Bates for 4, 5, 6 years, and he's been at Dom's for 6 years. He had a couple years at Lewiston, so he's been around the block a million times. But just the gap in X's and O's knowledge and what I thought I knew, and then getting into seeing how you implement everything and how you run things and how you change things on the fly. I'm like, wow, I am nowhere near them. But I feel like I have learned pretty quickly what I can learn. And at least at this level, I think I'm getting through it pretty well. So we'll see. I think I'd like to stay at the JV level if anyone needed a JV coach. But if this is just a one and done thing for a little bit, that's fine with me too. I've had a blast.
Well, the whole thing with learning is the first thing you learn is how little you actually know,
Oh yeah,
you
that
know,
is
and how
true.
much more there is to whatever it is you're learning about.
Yep.
The first thing you go is, oh my God,
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was talking about. I was just some idiot in the stands
Yep.
yelling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm like, I know basketball, I can do this. And then I go in and I see them run sets and practice. I'm like, whoa, no, okay, I gotta back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
But he did print out, all the sets they started with on like paper. So you flip through and you can see how it's all run. So I had a base before we got into practice, but it was a little jarring to see like, just the ins and outs of basketball, a game that I watch more than any other game, and I thought I knew. So we're learning, but it's been like
Hey,
I said, it's been so fun. I've had a great time.
all right. I will let you go. Do you have anything to plug? You don't really have anything to plug, do you? Just
No,
St.
just
Dom's.
come out to a St. Dom's game. We have a home game on Saturday,
But you have to
January.
bring your own swag because they don't have
Yeah,
any
bring your own
swag.
flag. It's BYOS
Yeah.
Saturday, and then we have 3 more home games after that. You can find our schedule online, but come to a game, subscribe to a newspaper, subscribe to Lucas, and keep this stuff alive.
Awesome. And you guys will be in the tournament
We will,
at the Civic
God
Center.
willing.
I think you're
Yeah.
in. I think your projecting is. I'll look it up. I think I've got you projected as in.
Okay. Well, I mean, if all goes to plan, yes, and then play in Augusta, and then the God willing, if we get to the state game, we get to go up to Bangor. That's a fun gym,
Yeah.
and see what happens. But no, we're having a lot of fun. The guys are kind of hitting their stride right about right now, and it's all about just staying focused, not getting complacent, and keeping it rolling.
So you are projected. This is as of Sunday. You are projected. It's pretty much a 50-50 split between the 2 seed and the 3 seed,
Nice. All right.
with
Yeah,
a
the heel points.
slight chance of falling to 4.
Okay. Yeah, we've learned a lot more about the heel points too, or I have with Josh, and some of the parents are way into it too, and we're like, oh, there we go, Telstar beat this team, or or they lost to Telstar, or we beat Sakapi and they just lost to Sakapi, so that's points or whatever it is. But
Yeah, the help points.
yeah, if Dirigo beats Valley, that would be a lot of points for us because Valley's worth a lot of points. I've learned a lot about heel points. So.
Sure, sure. Well, I think you want to stay out of the 4 is the big thing because you
Okay.
don't want to you want to stay on. You don't want to be on Valley's side of the bracket
Right.
because you don't want to have to try to beat them in a semifinal.
True. Right.
You want them in a final.
But
So
what
I
if?
don't. I don't know if you care if it even matters if you're in the 2 or the 3.
Yeah. Right.
Probably. So if the
Probably not.
2, so the right now, and this is as of Sunday, so I haven't updated yet. You're looking at Buckfield in 6 and Forest Hills in 7.
Okay. Yeah.
So something like
Um,
that.
something like that. Buckfield just had a huge, massive win.
115 points.
Yeah, that's wild. Crazy.
That's. I
Um,
mean, they're playing. So we could talk about that a little bit, and then I will let you go because you have stuff to do and I have stuff to do.
yeah.
115 points. So now that how do you look at that differently as a media person and as a coach?
Well, I mean, as a media person, I'm like, holy cow! Like, how did you like run up the score? Like, what was going on?
115 to 13.
Yeah, to 13. That's the crazy part. But like, I mean, if what we do is, and I think a lot of teams, they get their bench guys in pretty quickly if it's
Mhm.
getting out of hand like that. And if like, to me, if you're hitting shots still like open shots, you're still just hitting open shots. If you're like only shooting threes and you're making a bunch of threes, that's maybe a little crazy. But I think it's more disrespectful to just a little. It could be more disrespectful to just be dribbling it out
Mhm.
and not even really playing basketball against them. But 115 to 13 is so crazy.
Yeah.
That's so many points.
I talked to the coach. I talked to John Cadman, I think it is,
Yeah, John.
Buckfield's coach. And he said he's like, I played my bench 3/4 of the game.
Yeah, I bet
Like,
he did.
what are you gonna do? I mean, North Haven has 15 kids in the school
Yeah,
total, boys and girls. So,
yeah.
all
It's
of
a
the boys
miracle
in the
they have a team.
school, yeah, it's a miracle they have a team.
Yep.
So you're just like, well, hey, kid, I know you don't know anything about basketball. You don't like basketball, but you're able to run 50 feet without collapsing.
Yeah,
So guess what?
get you out there. Yep.
You're on the basketball team.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty much it. So,
yeah, I think one kid scored 12 of those 13 points.
oh, I don't doubt it. Yeah,
So
I'm sure that those types of teams have one guy that really knows it. But I mean, we're not trying to put that team down, but it's just like
no, I mean,
we're just looking at the different scenarios, and yeah, it's as a media person, I always just saw those scores and I was like, whoa. They had a really good night. I hope they weren't running it up. And then I've looked at it and from this angle, and I know a whole lot of coaches just put in their bench guys and they just, they go from there. There's no point in keeping their starters in the whole time. I know sometimes that does happen.
you don't want
And
them to get hurt either.
That's when it's kind of crazy. But if you're just putting your bench guys in and you're playing, it's just how it is.
I think the way to do it is to go, because almost instantly, in the warm ups when that's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
happen,
You can say,
is I think the move is to get the bench in early and often. But I don't like pulling the starters completely. I like working the bottom of the bench guys in with the starters
yeah, right.
so they can learn good habits
Yep.
and, tinker with different lineups
Yep.
and stuff like that and different combinations. And then you go, Jimmy here, he kind of works with these other guys,
Right? Yeah.
and
No.
then you might find something.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen that with a couple of the rotations I've had, and then it's sometimes I'll be putting guys in, and I just lose track. I'm like, what have I done? I look out, and I'm like, why did I do this to these guys? Because this isn't conducive to anybody doing well. So I gotta get back on track tomorrow with rotations that make a little bit more sense. But it's all a learning process, right? It's been a whole lot
Hey,
of fun, and I've really enjoyed it. I thank Laprelle for the opportunity, and um, can't wait for tomorrow. Another game at Trape. That's a long drive from
that yeah,
Lewiston here. Yeah, that's what, Kittery. That's like an hour and a half.
that's like on the
That's
border, right?
Yeah. It's right down. It's at the end of the
Jeez,
highway, end of 95. So
jeez, that's fun.
yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you. I'll let you get to it. And thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Anytime, man.
All right. Okay, that's the show. Thanks again to Adam for coming on, and good luck to the St. Dom's JVs the rest of the way. This has been a production of MaineBasketballRankings.com, your source for the most comprehensive coverage of Maine high school basketball from Ashland to York and everywhere in between. This podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts and a bunch of places you don't. If you enjoy this, please leave a nice review because it really does help out with algorithms. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Thanks for listening.